Ladies and gentlemen, imagine walking through a garden. The sun is warm on your back, the soil is rich beneath your feet, and the air is filled with the scent of tomatoes, spinach, eggplants, and greens swaying gently in the breeze. You think to yourself, this is nature's pharmacy. But what if I told you that even in this sacred garden, there are a few hidden traps, especially for those of us gracefully entering or embracing life after 60? I'm not here to scare you away from vegetables. I'm here to shine a light. Because as Dr. William Lee often reminds us, it's not just what you eat, it's how your body reacts to it. Let us begin with a simple thought. What is natural is not always harmless, and what grows from the ground does not always heal. This is not a statement meant to breed fear. It is one meant to awaken awareness. There was once an old man who lived in a quiet village near the mountains. He tended a small garden behind his house, and every morning before the sun rose, he would visit his plants, touch their leaves, speak softly to them, and harvest only what he needed. When asked about the secret to his long life, he replied, "It's not the food itself, but how I listen to it." Among the rows of vegetables he grew, none stood taller or prouder than the spinach and Swiss chard. Their vibrant green seemed to reflect life itself, rich, nourishing, full of promise. And indeed, for many years, he ate them with gratitude. But one day, after months of fatigue, stiffness in his joints, and a nagging ache in his lower back, he went to the village healer. After a long pause, the healer asked, "How much spinach do you eat, old friend?" And the answer made them both fall silent. Spinach, as many know, is rich in iron, magnesium, and antioxidants. Its virtues are often sung loud in every nutrition book and family dinner. Yet within its green leaves hides a subtle compound known as oxalate. These oxalates are not villains. They exist naturally to protect the plant. But when consumed in large amounts, especially by aging bodies with slower filtration systems, they can accumulate. And when they accumulate, they begin to bind with calcium, not to strengthen bones, but to form tiny crystals in the kidneys. These crystals may start small, like grains of sand, but over time, they grow. And while they do not always shout their presence, they whisper in the form of stiffness, back pain, or sudden changes in blood pressure. The kidneys, overburdened, begin to lose their rhythm, and as the kidneys stumble, the heart, too, feels the strain. The heart is not just a pump, it is a listener. It responds to every imbalance in the body's ecosystem. If the kidneys struggle to remove waste, fluid builds up. If fluid builds up, pressure rises. And pressure, quietly and steadily, carves away at the heart's strength. Spinach, when respected, is a friend. But like any strong friend, it must be approached with balance. In the traditional ways of eating, greens were rotated, never consumed daily in excess. Spinach would be followed by mustard greens, then kale, then herbs like coriander or fenugreek. Each plant brought a different gift, and none overstayed their welcome. Cooking these greens, too, changes their nature. Just as fire transforms metal into a blade, heat reduces the oxalate content, softens the plant structure, and makes it gentler on the body. The old man from the village eventually learned this lesson. He still ate his beloved spinach, but now only twice a week, and never raw. He steamed it lightly, added a squeeze of lemon, and balanced it with grains. His strength slowly returned, not because he added more, but because he removed what was hidden. Let us now turn to another root of the earth, one that bleeds crimson when sliced, whose color alone speaks of vitality. The beetroot. There is something ancient about the beet. Perhaps it is the way it grows close to the soil, absorbing the secrets of the earth, or perhaps it is the deep red pigment, a sign of blood of life. Beets, along with celery, have been praised for their ability to lower blood pressure. And it is true. They contain natural nitrates that the body can convert into nitric oxide, which in turn relaxes the blood vessels. In the language of the body, this means the heart does not need to push as hard. It is allowed to rest. But here, too, we must pause. A student once asked his teacher, "How can something that heals also harm?" And the teacher replied, "The difference between a medicine and a poison is only the dose." For seniors, especially those already on medications to manage blood pressure, excessive intake of beet juice or nitrate, rich vegetables can tilt the balance too far. When blood pressure drops too low, the body struggles to maintain equilibrium. You may notice this not as chest pain, but as dizziness when standing up, as a sudden cold sweat, as moments when the world tilts sideways. These are not just signs of age. They are signs of imbalance. What's more, some individuals have a unique sensitivity to dietary nitrates. Their bodies process these compounds more slowly. Instead of converting smoothly into nitric oxide, the nitrates may linger, interact with gut bacteria, and occasionally form nitrites that burden rather than benefit. The idea here is not to abandon beets or celery. It is to understand their strength, and to wield that strength wisely. A glass of beetroot juice every day may seem like a ritual of health. But if that juice brings a moment of weakness, if your step feels less steady, if your heartbeat flutters after your morning drink, then perhaps the ritual needs refinement. Ancient healing traditions always emphasized harmony, not excess. A bowl of beet soup in winter, paired with warming spices, was medicine. A daily flood of raw beet extract, that was unheard of. Celery, too, carries its own caution. While it is refreshing and hydrating, its high water and mineral content can lower blood pressure rapidly, especially when juiced and consumed in concentrated amounts. And for those with sluggish adrenal glands or chronic fatigue, this rapid drop can feel like the body being unplugged. A sudden, unexplained exhaustion. In the days when food was scarce, these vegetables were seasonal guests. You harvested what was ready, and then it was gone. The land offered diversity, not repetition. Today, however, we have created an illusion that more of a good thing will always bring more good. But the body is wiser than that. It remembers the old ways. Balance is a quiet wisdom. It does not shout. It does not advertise itself in shiny labels or bold headlines. It sits in silence, like the old man in his garden, choosing when to harvest and when to let the plant rest. The heart, too, prefers balance over extremes. It beats in rhythm, not chaos. It responds best to gentle support, not aggressive correction. And so, the way we eat must also reflect this rhythm. Eat your greens, yes, but rotate them, cook them, respect them, enjoy the gifts of beets and celery, but observe how they make you feel. Let your own body be the guide. And above all, remember, healing comes not only from what we add to our lives, but often from what we learn to remove. There is a saying passed down through generations: not all that is bitter is bad, and not all that is green is good. It may sound strange to modern ears, especially when we are surrounded by messages that call leafy greens the supreme healers. But this old wisdom carries a deeper meaning. One that the body, especially the aging body, often knows before the mind is willing to accept. In many homes, broccoli crowns the dinner plate like a badge of discipline. Cabbage is pickled, steamed, or shredded, always present as a nod to healthy living. Cauliflower, once plain and humble, is now glorified as rice, pizza, even steak. These vegetables belong to a powerful family, the Cruciferous family, known for its cancer-fighting compounds, its fiber, its bitter bite. And yet, for some, especially those in their 60s and beyond, these vegetables do not always bring healing. Sometimes, they bring heaviness. A student once asked a master herbalist, "Why do I feel tired even when I eat the right things?" The master smiled and replied, "The right thing for one moment becomes the wrong thing in the next." If you do not listen. Raw cruciferous vegetables contain natural compounds called glucosinolates. These are part of the plant's own protection system, a kind of shield against pests and disease. When you chew raw broccoli or cabbage, these compounds break down into substances that can interfere with the function of your thyroid gland. The thyroid, though small, holds enormous influence, regulating your metabolism, energy, and even the pace of your heartbeat. It is like the conductor of an orchestra, unseen, but essential. For those already living with a sluggish thyroid, something that becomes more common with age. These vegetables, when eaten raw and frequently, can further suppress its function. And the signs are often subtle at first: a slower pulse, cold hands, forgetfulness, dry skin. But over time, the body begins to feel like it's walking through water. Every task taking more effort, every movement losing its ease. There is a tale of an old monk who lived in the northern hills, where winters were long and harsh. He grew cabbage in abundance and shared it with every traveler who passed his gate. But he always cooked it in a large pot, over slow fire, for hours. One day a visitor asked, "Why do you destroy the crispness of the cabbage?" The monk replied, "Because my body is not a young river anymore. It cannot cut through the ice like before. It needs warmth, not challenge." Cooking cruciferous vegetables changes their chemistry. It softens their sharp edges, makes them easier to digest, and reduces the compounds that interfere with the thyroid. This is not about removing the life from food. It is about making food align with the life that is now. In earlier times, people did not eat salads every day. Raw vegetables were seasonal and sparse. They were not blended, juiced, and bottled into green elixirs. There was patience in preparation. There was a belief that food should be warming, grounding, and kind, especially in the colder years of life. This kindness must now return. For those who feel their energy waning, who have already been told their thyroid is tired, or whose heart beats a little too slowly, consider not what to add, but what to adjust. Lightly steaming your cabbage, sautéing your kale, or roasting your cauliflower with turmeric and olive oil is not a downgrade. It is a return to a deeper wisdom, one that doesn't just look at nutrients, but at nature, timing, and the needs of the moment. And now, we must visit another family of vegetables, one that glows with color, that grows in warm climates, and carries the fire of the sun within it: the nightshades. Tomatoes, eggplants, bell peppers, and white potatoes. These are familiar companions on the table. They bring flavor, texture, and vibrancy to every meal. But beneath their inviting appearance lies something ancient and misunderstood. The name, nightshade, itself feels mysterious. It hints at something hidden, something perhaps best approached with awareness. These plants contain alkaloids, natural compounds that serve as the plant's defense. Again, these are not poisons in themselves. In fact, in moderation, they can be stimulating to the body and mind. But for some, especially those whose immune systems have become more reactive with age, these alkaloids can stir the waters of inflammation. Inflammation is not always visible. It doesn't always come with swelling or pain. Sometimes it arrives silently, as fatigue that won't go away, as aching joints in the morning, as a heart that feels like it's working harder than it should. There's a story of a woman who loved her tomato soup. Every evening, she would make it fresh, adding basil and a touch of cream. It reminded her of her youth in the countryside. But over the years, her knees began to ache. Her fingers stiffened in the mornings. She blamed age, the cold weather, the mattress. But nothing helped. It wasn't until she took a break, not from movement, but from her tomatoes, that the fog lifted. Within weeks, her fingers moved more freely, her knees bent without protest. The food she loved was not her enemy, but it had become too familiar, too frequent, too fixed. Nightshades are not to be feared, but they are to be respected. Some people have no issue with them. Others find that when they remove them, their stiffness lessens, their mood lifts, their heart settles into a quieter rhythm. It is not the vegetable that is wrong. It is the assumption that what works for others will work for you. The body speaks in subtle ways. A restless night, a new ache, a sense of inner agitation. These are not punishments. They are invitations to observe. In some traditions, nightshades were cooked slowly, with plenty of oil and spices that neutralized their intensity. Tomatoes were sun, dried or fermented. Eggplants were salted and rinsed. These methods were not just about flavor, they were about balance. They transformed the plant from wild to welcoming. Today, when inflammation is one of the quiet causes of heart disease, paying attention to such small details is not trivial. It is essential. A heart under chronic stress, even mild, loses its elasticity. Its rhythm becomes strained. And while we often seek solutions in pills or procedures, sometimes the answer begins on the plate. You do not need to remove all nightshades forever, but you may choose to pause, for a week, maybe 2, and notice. Are the joints looser? Is the sleep deeper? Does the chest feel lighter after meals? The answers come not from experts, but from experience. Health is not a formula, it is a conversation. Between the food, the season, your age, your organs, and your awareness. Sometimes, the loudest healing begins with the softest change. Dear friends, food is not just nourishment, it's information. Every bite tells our body how to respond, how to age, how to heal. Vegetables remain one of the most powerful allies we have, but like all powerful things, they must be handled with knowledge and care. Dr. William Le puts it beautifully. You don't need to fear food. You need to understand it. So let's not retreat from our gardens. Let's walk through them with wiser eyes, open minds and stronger hearts. Thank you.